A courtroom in Pretoria has just turned Zambia's grief into a constitutional showdown. On August 18th, the High Court adjourned the case of Edgar Lungu's burial indefinitely, and what looks like a family quarrel is in fact a battle over law, power, and the soul of a nation. This moment is a test of Zambia's institutions, a mirror of its political divisions, and a warning signal to both citizens and investors across Africa. I'm Asante, and this is the African Reset. We go beyond the courtroom to uncover what this struggle really means for Zambia and for the continent's future.
The legal timeline. Edgar Lungu, Zambia's former president, died in June 2025 while receiving medical treatment in South Africa. His death should have been a solemn occasion, a chance for Zambians to unite in reflection, regardless of political loyalty. Instead, it sparked one of the most unusual legal and political disputes in Southern Africa. On June 25, just as burial proceedings were about to begin in South Africa, the Pretoria High Court halted the funeral. According to AP News, the Zambian government had urgently applied for an injunction, arguing that under Zambian law, a former head of state must be repatriated and buried with full honors in his homeland. The court agreed to pause the burial until it could hear arguments in full. On August 8th, the same court issued a ruling. Zambia's constitution and national interests outweighed private family wishes. According to Reuters, the judgment made it clear that state funerals are not optional for former presidents. They are a matter of national obligation. Lungu's body, the court said, must be repatriated, but his family, determined to resist, immediately filed an appeal. That appeal came before the Pretoria High Court on August 18, and here Acting Judge President Justin Blanchard adjourned the case indefinitely, postponing the decision without setting a date. For now, the matter is stuck in limbo, and Zambia remains without closure.
Political and human context. I'm Ama Asante. This case is about more than burial rights. It has become a stage on which Zambia's old rivalries and divisions are being replayed. Edgar Lungu was a polarizing figure in life, and now, in death, his legacy is pulling the nation into conflict again. But the real issue here is not only Lungu himself, it is about the strength of Zambia's institutions. Kenneth Kaunda, Zambia's founding president, once said, "Democracy is not a bottle of Coca-Cola, which you can buy at the shop. It has to be born inside every man." That line is as relevant now as it was decades ago. The question before Zambia today is simple. Is democracy born in the strength of its institutions, or does it still bend to the weight of powerful personalities?
Zambias Own Example, a tale of two funerals. This is not the first time Zambia has faced the passing of a president. In June 2021, Kenneth Kaunda, the nation's founding father, died at the age of 97. His funeral was handled with dignity, but not without debate. According to Reuters, some family members, including his son Kaweche, argued that Kaunda had wished to be buried alongside his late wife, Betty, on their farm. But the Zambian High Court dismissed the family's challenge. The judges ruled that public interest overrides personal interest and emphasized that Kaunda was not an ordinary citizen, but a national figure whose burial carried constitutional and symbolic weight. The government declared 21 days of national mourning. Kaunda lay in state. Ceremonies were held across every province, and he was finally buried at Embassy Park, the official presidential burial site. That funeral became a unifying moment for Zambia, drawing respect from citizens and recognition from the international community. Now compare that to Edgar Lungu's case. Instead of solemnity, there is stalemate. Instead of closure, there is conflict. Where Kaunda's funeral projected stability, Lungu's dispute has spilled into foreign courts and deepened division. The contrast is stark because Zambia has shown it can handle such moments with grace and dignity. But this time, the political wounds are overriding national unity.
Impact on citizens. For ordinary Zambians, this saga has been heartbreaking. According to AP News, the 7 days of national mourning declared in June ended abruptly without a burial, leaving people without the closure that rituals provide. Funerals of former leaders are not just ceremonial, they are national moments of unity. They allow citizens, regardless of politics, to grieve together. But instead of unity, Zambians have watched their leaders drag a coffin through courts abroad. Here we might recall Socrates, who said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." If we apply this to politics, an unexamined democracy is not worth sustaining. Zambia must examine its own fractures honestly, or risk hollowing out the very democracy it fought to build. Impact on investors. The consequences extend beyond citizens. Investors are watching too. Zambia is in the middle of debt restructuring while negotiating with the International Monetary Fund. According to Reuters, investor confidence depends on predictable governance and institutional stability. Yet this dispute, even though symbolic, signals fragility. It suggests that Zambia's laws, even when clear, can be bogged down by personal rivalries. Kenneth Kaunda's funeral, by contrast, reassured the world that Zambia could manage national transitions with order and respect. It projected stability. Today, the opposite message is being sent, and in the global marketplace, perception is power.
The African Reset Perspective, Institutions versus Legacies. From the African Reset perspective, the deeper issue here is the battle between institutions and legacies.
Kenneth Kaunda once warned, "We talked of freedom, yet were not free. We talked of democracy, yet had not won true democracy." His words echo today. Zambia cannot claim democratic maturity if the constitution itself can be sidelined by private dispute. Thomas Sankara too provides insight. While revolutionaries as individuals can be murdered, you cannot kill ideas. Yet here we see the opposite tension. The idea of constitutional law being weakened by the endurance of one man's legacy. And Socrates reminds us, the heaviest penalty for refusing to engage in politics is to be ruled by those inferior to yourself. If citizens do not demand that institutions prevail, they risk allowing elite quarrels to define their national destiny.
Comparative reflection, lessons for Africa. Looking across Africa, Zambia's dilemma resonates. South Africa managed Nelson Mandela's passing with dignity, ensuring family wishes and state protocols complemented each other. Ghana handled Jerry Rawlings' funeral in 2021 with respect, observing constitutional traditions and providing national closure. Zambia, by contrast, risks standing out for the wrong reasons, a nation whose leaders cannot agree even in death. And in a world where reputations matter, that sends a troubling message. Reflection and takeaways. The adjournment on August 18th leaves Zambia still waiting. The question of when and where Edgar Lungu will be buried remains unresolved. But the deeper test is whether Zambia can demonstrate that its laws are stronger than its legacies. For citizens, the cost is delayed mourning and weakened trust in their leaders. For investors, the cost is uncertainty in governance and economic outlook. For Africa, it is a reminder that democracy must be built on institutions, not individuals.
Key lessons: 1. Rule of law must prevail over political legacies. 2. Zambia's burial dispute underscores deep political fractures. 3. Citizens deserve unity, not courtroom battles in times of mourning. 4. Investors interpret instability, even symbolic, as risks. 5. Kaunda's 2021 funeral showed Zambia can do better. 6. Africa must institutionalize respect for law above personal rivalries. 7. Philosophical wisdom, from Socrates to Sankara, warns against elevating men over institutions. 8. Political symbolism shapes global perceptions as much as policy. 9. Stability reassures both citizens and international markets. Ultimately, the Lungu saga is not about one man's body. It is about Zambia's democratic credibility.
Closing reflection. This is not just about where one man is laid to rest. It is about whether Zambia can prove that law is stronger than legacy. Kenneth Kaunda reminded us that democracy must be lived, not just spoken. Socrates warned that an unexamined life, and by extension, an unexamined democracy, is not worth sustaining. For Zambia, the examination is here. The world is watching, and the verdict is still to be written. I'm Asante, and this is the African Reset.